Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, most welcome guests. I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about internet marketing. Everyone's familiar with the internet, I'm assuming. How many people here would you say, for business purposes, generate business off the internet? Is your number one generator of business leads for your business? It's funny, the last time I spoke to a group of about 100 people, I got the same response. But I have statistics that say 57% of businesses actually use their website as their number one tool to recruit new business. Something to think about. There's got to be something to that. Think about it. A website never really sleeps. Works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And what's the first thing you do when you meet someone and you find out they're in a certain business? Our Toastmaster actually said, I Googled it, just so happens, earlier. And that's exactly what we do. We would go out and check them out. I mean, really, prior to this, everything was word of mouth. That's the way business worked. There was no problem. There was no issue with how people would reach you. Now it becomes a question of, what are you showing them on your website? How are you driving them there? Because quite frankly, that is your image. Before they pick up the phone and ever call you, they're going to know what your business is about according to your website. I think it's quite clear that the internet's not going anywhere. Can we agree with that? I mean, the first thing to really change the way business conducted was radio. It really was. That really paved the way for a different type of advertising, a different type of marketing. You could actually reach the masses. And then came television, of course. Now, I won't go into the music video and stuff like that, but obviously the internet is that next tier. 90% of traffic that goes to a website is generated off the top 3 spots in a Google search. So if you Google Tampa Toastmasters, those top 3 spots, not the ads that are a different color for those of you that are familiar with the annoying ads that somebody you know paid to put there, and it's not always a relevant search item, but the 3 organic beneath it. In other words, that's what Google deems as the most important and relevant search results. Account for 90% of traffic to a website. So what does that really mean for us if everybody we meet is going to go out and Google us? Really, that determines whether or not you're ever found, doesn't it? Because there's no longer a local phone book. Let's face that. I get a call today from somebody in Los Angeles. They want to talk to me about building them a website. They don't care that I'm in Tampa. They have no interest in whether or not I'm in Tampa. They have an interest in whether or not I can provide them the product they're looking for. Now, 20 years ago, would someone from Los Angeles been calling me, asking me if I could build them a website? Or even probably provide them services, really, all the way from Tampa? Probably not. So, what I'm trying to say is obviously there's a shift going on here. Traditional media buying with advertising and multi-million-dollar Super Bowl commercials, it's really a waste of money. It's funny, I saw Bridgestone sponsored the halftime show. How many people in here are going to buy a Bridgestone tire because they sponsored the Black Eyed Peas to go out there and make idiots of themselves? None of us. Did we all know who Bridgestone was before that? Probably. And quite frankly, if we didn't know who Bridgestone was, we still don't. Nor do we care, because they never really brought up tires. They just said, this is Bridgestone. There was a time whenever someone would be a presenting sponsor in Super Bowl where it was a big deal. It was Ford or it was Chevy. It was an American brand that people could be proud of and resonate with. Bridgestone? To be honest, I don't know if it's an American company, and quite frankly, I don't think anybody else really probably thinks much about that either. But there's still a medium that we have to reach. With the global market the way that it is, customers still have to be found. In order to stay in business, you need customers. Can we all agree on that? And in order to do that, you need to use things like search engine optimization, search engine marketing, social media optimization. These may be terms you've heard, or they may not. When you shorten them into their acronyms, they get confusing. SEO is search engine optimization. What that really means is you're optimizing your spot in Google based on certain keywords that people search for. SMO is social media optimization. That's a new one. Some of us in here are like, social media optimization? What on earth is he talking about? Basically, they've actually coined a phrase for social media optimization, which means on Facebook, posting relevant content that people will actually be interested in. Now, this is kind of common sense, isn't it? I mean, really, who's going to post things on a Facebook page that isn't relevant to their client base? But quite frankly, you'd be amazed at how many companies are out there just talking and talking and talking. It's kind of like when blogging became popular in the late 90s, early 2000s. Everybody that had a keyboard had something to say, and they just kept saying it, whether somebody was reading it or not. So with this shift in the media going from traditional mediums, such as radio, television, newspaper, I mean, let's face it, newspapers are hurting right now. AOL just bought the Huffington Post, for those of you who don't know. Why would they do that? Quite frankly, because AOL really doesn't have anything to say, and they needed content for their site. So it was a strategic move because they can merge the two and become a medium that's a digital shop rather than just AOL is digital or just the Huffington Post who produces newspapers. So some might argue that failed companies or companies that don't have the money anymore in their budget really can't afford to advertise anymore. So that's why this shift is happening, where people aren't advertising with newspapers or other traditional mediums. The fact of the matter is they still have to reach their clients. Think about Ford. If they don't reach the end user and they don't purchase cars, what's the point of producing them? There's really none. One more term I want to share with you tonight is XML sitemap. Has anybody ever heard of that? We got a couple techies in here. So what is an XML sitemap? You guys are thinking, I have no idea and I probably really don't care. But if you are involved with a website ever with a business or even with Tampa Toastmasters, an XML sitemap is basically a roadmap for Google. So in other words, whenever Google comes out to your page, it better understands because you submitted in advance before it came out to check out what was on your site. This is what we have here, this is what we are, this is what we do. Make sure you rank us better. We've built this in the way that you've asked us to. Because believe it or not, Google has rules. Can you believe that? They don't share them with anyone though, because they don't want anyone to abuse the system. So what you find is you're having to pay someone thousands of dollars to get ranked on a search engine that's really just supposed to give the most relevant results. But you can't really do that until Google has your information and understands who you are. And if you're not putting that out there, customers aren't going to find you. Lastly, I'll just share with you the fastest growing demographic with social media use is actually persons above the age of 50. In the last year, it has nearly doubled. Last year, 22% of people above the age of 50 were using social media. So that could be Twitter, it could be Facebook, it could be LinkedIn. But it's now 42% or 40%. It's now 40%. So it went from 22% to 40%. Social media is not going anywhere. It's going to get worse. For those of you who don't like it, you should probably get used to it. Mr. Toastmaster?